Welcome back to In Business. We're in the studio with Karen Grew of Pallet Vallow and Scott Kendall, the technology coach. We're talking about e-commerce. Is Big Brother watching you? What should employers be doing to communicate on a regular basis?
Well, just keep repeating the message to employees as to how they should be using their email. And that includes not only internet use, but the types of emails you would send in ordinary day-to-day business. Make sure you're communicating to those employees to read the emails, make sure they're professional, and take a moment to read it before you send it, particularly if it's one that's hastily crafted and a reaction to perhaps something that you're not happy with receiving.
Yeah, if you're angry, the best thing to do is to just put it in the draft folder.
Absolutely. Come back to it in an hour, and if you still feel the same way, then go ahead and send it.
Then hit the send button. And Scott, you were talking about some other websites. Let's give us a rundown of some of the websites.
The kinds of websites that employees will visit during their work hours that they may deem to be more acceptable. But ones like, say, job hunting websites or online poker, or even just reading the newspaper. And if the employer deems that that's not acceptable and should be laid out in the policy, then that's something that needs to be clearly conveyed as well. And there needs to be sort of a line drawn in the sand as to where that comfort level is.
How does an employer possibly cover every single website topic that employees can go to? Is there a catch-all phrase, Karen, legally? Is there a catch-all phrase that we can use?
They'll put you on the spot.
Well, you have to be reasonable, because let's face it, you're going to have to expect some personal use. You just have to be reasonable in your expectations, and also tell people to think about how much they're using it. And if you use it over lunch to look up a house on a real estate website, for example, that might be acceptable. But if you're found to be looking at things for hours and not getting your work done, well, that's something altogether different.
And that's a great example. I have a client who actually sells real estate as a business, and of course they need to be able to access those sites.
Right.
But if their employees who are supposed to be in the accounting or the finance department are doing their own real estate investing on the side, especially in our current economic times, that all of a sudden becomes a crossing of the line. So it's really, it starts to become a very gray area, and I think communication is really the key.
That's true.
And Scott, what should clients be calling you about with respect to e-commerce?
A lot of the time, the types of calls I get are regarding software implementations for monitoring software. But often, one really big request I get is employers and businesses that are trying to protect themselves from this threats coming from outside, whether that's via viruses or hacking or spyware, or any of these number of threats that are available on the internet, and protecting themselves from there is a common question I get.
We've got about 30 seconds to go before our time together is over. Scott, final comments on e-commerce?
I think it's really key to keep in mind that it's an old saying that anything you send via email is like sending it through the mail on a postcard, in that it's open to just about any channel in between. So you're putting something in writing, make sure it's what you really want to say.
That's great. All good advice. Thanks for joining us on In Business. Our show is pre-taped tonight, so if you have a question, remember to send them directly to Scott Kendall from the Technology Coach.